Salutations, First Nationalists. I'm Chevalier, and I bid welcome to Digital Situation and Guide of Provence. Provence is a medium to high difficulty nation to play as. I would say mostly a medium, although their lands are scattered, and this is somewhat of a disadvantage. At the same time, they provide you an extreme way of expansion. Basically, means you can expand into Brittany and then into England. You can expand into Burgundy as well. So there are plenty of ways that you can move about with no actual problems. With this out of the way, let's actually go into the game, and let's go first into cash. You have cash issues to some degree. I recommend killing some Euro forts. That will be the 14 Anjou and the 14 Barra. At the same time, we'll mothball the 14 Provence as well. This means that you'll make 4 ducats, which is enough for you to get an advisor. 2 advisor at best, and then you'll have some cash problems, but it's doable for you to get an admin advisor at +2 and a military advisor at +1. Admin advisor from the States, of course. As for trade, you are in the province, in the Genoa trade node. More expansion into the trade nodes is basically not necessary. It will be in this trade node for the rest of the game. Some provinces need to be taken from Aragon, from Genoa, from Firenze as well, from France even, and mostly you'll focus on getting trade and pushing trade to Genoa and getting a bunch of cash from Genoa. Now let's go into estates. Into estates, as you can see here, the clergy has an annoying amount of control. May and Anjou are controlled by the clergy. Unfortunately, you cannot give that many provinces because most of the provinces are a decent amount of development. So pretty much you cannot change this. Now, what you can actually do is get points. Maximize your points, which is doable. On the clergy, my recommendation is to recruit the minister here, the +10 inquisitor, and 6 support. At the same time, on nobility, my recommendation is to grant a generalship and then recruit a minister, or call a diet and recruit a minister. But if you do this, you'll see that you are a little bit shy of the necessary points to get actually demand military support 150. So if you want, you can actually do grant a generalship instead of recruit call a diet. So you can get the generalship and you can do this. You can recruit a minister. You can get the generalship and call a diet, and that will give you enough points. Recruit a minister would have been better if you wanted to have a +2 guy here. But yeah, +2 guy at half the cost, of course. For the clergy, as I said before, you need a minister, so you can get an inquisitor and 6 support here, 77. You can get the points here as well. On the bourgeois, it's highly unlikely. You'll need to give them a province. You can give them this. You give them Dragoin, and it's gonna get you to 28. But unfortunately, 28, you're not gonna be able to get to 40 here because you need to have influence to 40. You can only get 10, so it's a loss from you. If you improve with Dragoinan a little bit, it's doable, but still not recommended. Maybe if you take some more lands, then you can actually give them to the bourgeois. Now this is it here. Remember, this should be taken once you're close to 60, basically 60.1, so you can get the maximum points from here. With the clergy, if you don't want to play the Kuria game, which most likely you won't as province because you want to take your core back, you just have to get 1 point in you have to just use the stability cost modifier. So you can actually just demand after you boost it to 1 stability. As for the nobility, it's still fine if you actually just get instantly with no actual issues. Now, here on the court, you'll want to focus for admin points, followed by getting the +2 advisor, which is up the cost, no advisor on diplomatic, and discipline guy, either discipline morale or anything of that sort. Your core leader is a 352, which is quite decent, especially in the diplomatic skill. Your air is shit, so as soon as you can kill him, make him into a general so that he can die. Other than this, nothing much to say here. On government, you're a duchy, pretty much standard stuff. You're French in culture group, so you can actually form France later on, so that's good as well. Diplomacy wise, here comes the little bit tricky part, basically choosing the right enemies. As you can see, you have a bit of a huge list. My first recommendation will be the Papal State, simply because you want to take your core back and you want to make Europa into your vassal, but that will be into the expansion. So the Papal State, followed by Brittany, followed by France. Now, what this gives you to some degree, although you can to some degree replace France with Genoa, but if you attack Genoa, you're gonna be in trouble. So again, you cannot actually choose rivals from the HRE because you cannot attack them yet. So these are your main rivals. Papal State because they have one of your cores, France because you want to take one of your cores from France and expand into France as well, and the last one, Brittany, because you want to expand into this side as well and hopefully get a fight against England early on, so you can actually take control over the English Channel trade node as well, which is important to control two end nodes, especially the English Channel trade node, which is you're gonna have to push some trade from this side. So yeah, it's quite fine to have the English Channel trade node, more cash for you, especially because it's easier for you to control the English Channel trade node. They have less provinces, I think, than the Genoa trade node. But this is for the late game, or actually the mid game, not the late game. Now, allies. So you want to fight off France, alliance with England, alliance with Aragon, basically. Alliance with England, Aragon, Austria. Yeah, perfect. So, two alliances: fight off France, rape France, kill France, destroy France, take everything you can from France, rape France, anything of this sort. Like, there's not much to say, just destroy France bit by bit so you can take their lands. It should be noted that you can actually form France yourself, so it's nice if you want to save points to just not take cores, basically. You although have to own some provinces, we'll talk about this soon. But yeah, it's try to be smarter about which provinces you want to take and whom do you want to feed. At some point in time you can actually feed your vassal. Again, we'll talk about this in expansion in the part 2 of the guide. We talked about economy, trade, let's talk about technology. Pretty standard stuff. As Provence, you're gonna have the Renaissance hit really soon. Same goes for the colonialism if you are really smart as well. So both of these can be done. Now, for text, pretty much standard stuff. Boost really fast so you can get a first idea. Remember, try to use this as much as possible. Try to be careful of the penalty from institutions as well. Diplomatic, save points for your first idea if you want to go for a diplo idea first. As for military, take it when you want to go to war, when you feel threatened, anything of that sort. Now, 4 ideas. You have the moral of armies, diplomatic reputation. I would say for the early game is quite good. Diplo is quite good as well. It allows you to become the HRE Emperor quite soon. Moral of armies is good. Military ideas and traditions are really good early on. Cost for updated claims not that great. You have the illegitimacy not that great. National unrest pretty much decent. I would say that the modifier of -1 is kind of bad. For defense, useless. Diplomatic relations +2. This is a huge modifier. I think this is one of the highest modifiers that you can actually get the +2, and I think they're one of the only countries that can get the +2 modifier if I'm not mistaken, although I'm not sure. Again, extra alliances can serve you really well. And you have the naval force limit +10%, the naval maintenance. It might be nice if you want to fight off against these guys here, but by the time you get this idea, you're gonna be a huge power and you're gonna have tons of ships, so get kind of useless. And you have the production efficiency, which is quite decent, and you have the yearly prestige +1%, not that great, but still, it's gonna keep your prestige up. Now, remember that you'll be able to form France, so you can actually switch to the France ideas later on, which to some degree serve you better, but again, it's up to you. I do recommend switching to France simply because you're gonna get the scores here. You can do some tricks, some tips, some tricks that you can use to make it faster. Now, let's actually talk about ideas that you should take. So, there are two options at this point in time. First and foremost, influence, influence admin exploration expansion military. That is your primary target. That is basically the landlocked expansion. The second option will be military exploration expansion influence admin. Even actually I was called admin influence. Again, it's up to you how you want to pull it off, but going for your first military idea is really good. I recommend going for offensive ideas first if you want to pull this off. It's quite easy for you to become an HRE Emperor, so this means that you will have the necessary manpower and you're gonna be safeguarded against your future enemies. Now, notable other options. Diplomatic first is good as well if you want to go with it, although it's not that good at this point in time. It's still somewhat on par with influence, but the aggressive expansion impact is better than it's quite good basically. It's all that matters. Although in this patch with some modifiers, it's really annoying with the annexation of your vassals. It's quite annoying. But yeah, decent overall, and these are your permanent ideas. Later on, economic ideas, if you want to build up France, is doable as well. Trade ideas, so you can get more cash from here. Again, this is part of the late game. In the late game, you should just experiment if you're not going for achievement or something that you want to do, basically. But yeah, this is the idea that you can take. Offensive ideas are risky, but they can pay off. If you want to go for a military idea first, remember, focus on the military points here, and just boost up your tech on Diplo as you're actually going for the admin, basically. So boost at the same rate. Still same advisors, nothing will change. Now, let's go into missions and decisions. Basically, not that many flavor events, nothing that is big. Pretty much standard stuff, some flavor, small flavor events. Now, you can form the French nation. You'll need to hold Maine, Berry, Vermandois, Paris, Orléans, Nemours, and Champagne. Basically, you need to own these provinces here. Now, what you can do is basically feed provinces to your vassal, except these provinces here, basically. So you can actually take those lands for yourself, core it, then feed them to your vassal, and when you annex your vassal, they're gonna be annexed. You're not gonna pay points for them, basically, because you already have a core on them. So this is the little trick I was talking about. You can do this, and you can actually save some points on that side. Whoever you choose, it's up to you. Probably you'll want to choose what's called Gascony, not Gascony, yeah, Gascony. Before it was Gien. So you can choose Gascony, for example. You can actually choose Toulouse as well if you want. So Toulouse is a good option as well, especially early on, because you can actually form Toulouse faster than Gien. Again, plenty of options that you can actually choose from. Other than this, nothing much in ideas, pretty much standard stuff. Let it be noted that you cannot join the HRE Empire, just so that before you can go into the military, you cannot join the HRE Empire, so you'll have to become the HRE Emperor the good old-fashioned way, by diplomatic way, not by military way, because that's a waste of potential in expansion. Now, stability and expansion, pretty standard stuff. Boost stability first. Choose when you have to do the reduction or exhaustion. Here I recommend going for the native repression policy, because you're gonna expand quite fast, so there are not gonna be any problems there. You can actually go to the new world quite fast. In my Teutonic campaign, actually, although you'll see it later on, I was able to hit the Caribbean pretty much before Portugal, and Castile had like 3 or 4 colonies. Actually had 1 province fully colonized and 3 active colonies, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it is doable for you to pull it off before these guys go there in full force. Religion-wise, you're Catholic, nothing much to say here. You can play the Queer game. You do not have a cardinal though, so let that be noted, but you'll probably gain one from France, or you have a pretty much decent chance of getting one yourself. Yeah, from France, you can take the one from Holland, for example, from France, so pretty much a decent setup option on that side there. Now, other notable options on Catholic here is to switch to Protestant if you want. Again, I wouldn't recommend it. Still doable if you want to. Pretty much it remains to your own preferences basically. Military, you have 13 force limit. You have 9 troops. My recommended basically troop composition is go for a 7-4. No, not 7-4. But yeah, 7-4. 7-4. No, it's not 7-4, mate. No, it's 9-4, sorry. Sorry, not 7-4, 9-4, my bad. Wrong calculation. So it's 9-4. Build it up when you have reached maximum manpower. As for naval force limit, I recommend building some more galleys, so you can actually get some more power there. Pretty much this is it on military. Nothing much more to say. Here you don't have that much of a force limit. If you become HRE Emperor, you're gonna get a boost, so that is easy as well. So for your subjects, you have Lorraine as your subject. Later on, this will be a drag on you. I truly recommend to actually cancel Lorraine here. You can actually what was it? There's an option here that you actually cancel the abandoned personnel unit with Lorraine. Later on, when you become big enough, it's not recommended for you to have Lorraine. If you annex Lorraine, it's gonna be a problem. You don't want to lose one of the HRE miners, so again, just abandon the union later on when you grow powerful enough. There's no point in you having problems here in the HRE because you annexed one of their members. Although you can feed lands from Burgundy to Lorraine, and you can go on this side here and go into the take Bourbon, for example, take Charleroi and feed them from Burgundy. Again, if you want to do this, you can actually feed from France as well. So if you want to do this, it's doable, but you have plenty of vassals from this side here, from Gascony, Toulouse, what is this, Orléans, Alençon as well. So plenty of nations that you can actually release. And this is it. Next part is gonna be about expansion and other notable things that we should talk about here. They do not quite exist, although you should try to move into your papal state and then to Venice, simply because you want to keep Italy in the HRE, so you can actually, when you become the HRE Emperor, you're gonna get faster imperial authority. But yeah, this is the initial part, the part 1 of the initial situation and guide of Provence, the initial situation part. Part 2 is gonna be the guide, the expansion guide to Provence. With this, I bid you farewell. Hope you enjoy this. If you enjoy this, comment, like, or subscribe. I really appreciate feedback, so even if it's negative, positive, I really want to hear from you. With this, bid you farewell. I'm Chevalier, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.